Hi, I'm Juanita. Welcome back to the Knit Guru. And today we're going to talk about this here. This is my oldest knitted washcloth. It is purple. I need to say that it's purple because it looks kind of grey blue. It's got some bleach stains on it. It's got, well, it's out of shape. But I've had this and I've used it for 15 years. I think it's almost time that it retires. Okay, it's definitely time that it retires, but it's actually not going to retire just yet. It's close though, because there's a couple of little holes forming. There's one right there. Am I going to patch up this hole? No, it's given me 15 years. I think I will just clean a few more windows with it, and eventually it will die a natural death and it will join my compost. So what are we going to do today? Today we're going to remake my favourite knitted washcloth, and I use these cotton washcloths for absolutely everything. This one in particular it's got a great texture to it, so it's really quite good for cleaning bathrooms and things like that. I have others that I use for just exclusively doing glass windows because the cotton knit yarn is really good on glass. And I've got another set that I just use for, washing dishes and things like that. We're going to be remaking this bad boy using Lily Sugar and Cream. This colour here is, I want to say, I don't know, it doesn't, mango, there we go. Mango Madness. I was going to say, I think it's called sorbet or mango sorbet or orange sorbet or something. No, it's Mango Madness. So this is Mango Madness, and we're going to follow along my tutorial to make this washcloth again and replace my 15-year-old washcloth with a brand spanking new one of the same pattern that's actually square. So here we go. Right, so this is known as the knot stitch. Now, in order to get the knot stitch to work properly, you need an odd number of stitches. Here I'm casting on 41 stitches. The main reason you want it to be an odd number is because we're going to be pairing up the stitches. We need one at either end so that we can offset. If we end up with everything going up in a row, it's quite different and it's not as effective as being a knot. So we're just now going to knit our first row. All of our rows on this right side, if you will, are going to be knitted. So there's nothing complicated on our right side rows, we just knit. So we're just going to knit to the end. On row 2, what we're going to do is we're going to start by knitting one stitch. Then we're going to bring our yarn forward and we're going to purl 2 together. But you may notice here that I'm not taking them off the needle at the end of the purl. I'm now going into that first stitch and knitting that, well, purling that individually. So we're not losing a stitch by purling 2 together. We're purling 2 together, then we're purling that first one individually. So we're basically putting a wrap around the stitch. So purl 2 together, just like so. Don't take it off the needle. Then get that first stitch and purl it individually. Nice. So purl 2 together, and once we've got those 2 purled together, we're just going to purl that first stitch individually, then we're going to slide them both off the needle. You'll find that it's a little bit awkward at first, but it's soon going to get a little bit easier as we go, and you'll get more practice at it because it takes a while to build this up, but it is really pretty. Again, we're now going to go row 3. Row 3 is a front side stitch, so basically we're just going to knit all the way across this row. So we're just going to knit all of the stitches. Now here, this project here I'm working on is a dishcloth, obviously, but you can use this stitch on a number of things. It's really nice on a cowl. It's something where, because it's only a one-sided stitch, it's really quite nice in a vest. It's just an interesting textured pattern. So we're knitting all the way across row 3 here. Row 4 is where it gets slightly, well, I'd say the same but different, but it's very much like row 2, only slightly different from row 2. So there we go. So row 4, we're going to start by purling 2 together, and then we're going to purl that first stitch of the pair. So what we're going to do here is we're going to purl the 2 together without removing the stitch, purl the first stitch, then slide both of them off. When we get to the very last stitch in the row, we're just going to knit the last stitch. So you'll notice that row 2 we knit the first stitch, row 4 we knit the last stitch, and we're just going to do that all the way across. Now this pattern will work up relatively quickly just on these 4 rows. The only problem you can encounter in doing this stitch is pretty much getting your row 2 and your row 4 mixed up. If you do get your row 2 and your row 4 mixed up, you'll find that your pattern doesn't alternate. So just really keep a close eye on those 2 stitches at the very end and the very beginning of your rows to make sure you're doing it the right way. So just purl 2 together and then purl the first one before sliding them both off. Right. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to work this up. We're just going to get to the last stitch on this row here. So here we go, purl 2 together, purl 1, purl 2 together, purl the first one, and then we're going to knit this last stitch on the row. Right, so as we start working it up, you'll see the pattern forming. You get these little lines going across the front, which makes it a little bit more interesting. We're aiming in this particular task to get to a square. So in order to get to a square, we've got a couple of ways that I like to measure it. First of all, just try folding it in half from the corner up to the knitting needle. That'll give you a rough guide as to when it's worth bringing out the tape measure. Once you do feel like it's getting close, measure across your work and then measure up your work. Then you're just going to cast off. We're just going to cast off like normal right up until the last stitch on the row. When we get to that last stitch on the row, just leave it live for the moment. If you can take a crochet hook, trust me, if you're not a crocheter, this is not going to be a difficult task. What we're going to do is we're just going to pick up this last stitch here and we're going to chain 10 stitches. So if we're going to do 10 chains in with our crochet hook, I'm just using I think it's a 5.5mm hook, but it really doesn't matter what size hook you're using, because all we're doing is hanging a little loop on there so that we can hang up our dishcloth. Unless you want to have a look at my dishcloth dress pattern, which is a different way of hanging your dishcloths all together. So, right, we're now just going to stitch this together and make a little loop sitting right there, and that's our dishcloth done. Now this is our bonus pattern, our soap scrubby. This is the hurdle stitch. So if you want to make the hurdle stitch, what you want to do first is to cast on some stitches. An even number of stitches is what we're going to use in this pattern. In this case, we're going to cast on 40 stitches. Now the advantage in casting on 40 stitches is it's the same width as what we have already been using. So you could make a dishcloth out of the hurdle stitch, and it's really nice as well. But in this case, we're going to be making a soap scrubby. So with our 40 stitches cast on, we're going to get to our first row. There we go, watching me cast stitches on, always exciting. So once we've got all of our stitches, we're just going to cut to having them all. We're now going to, on row 1, just knit across the whole row. Now the thing about the hurdle stitch, I use it all the time because it's a really easy pattern. It works up really quickly and really effectively. It's texture. Oh, look at that. We're filming nothing. Just absolutely. There we go. Now we're going to try and film some knit stitches. So it works up really quickly and it lays flat. It's also one of those ones where you can easily and quickly see where you're up to in the pattern, so you don't have to do a lot of stopping and counting or marking rows. It's just a 4-row repeat. And in being a 4-row repeat, row 1 and row 2 are the same, and row 3 and 4 are exactly the same. So row 1, just knitting. Row 2 is also just knitting, so we're on the reverse here. You can choose to slip the first stitch if you want a neat edge, but I'm not worried about it. So we're just going to knit all the way across these stitches. If you're finding here, like I'm using a wooden needle here with Lily Sugar and Cream yarn, sometimes it's worth changing up your needles to find a pair that match. Some yarns are really slippery and some needles are really slippery. So if you've got a slippery needle and a slippery yarn together, you're often going to find that it's just going to be a struggle, and nobody needs that level of struggle in their life. This is supposed to be something we do for fun. Here we go. We've got all of our knit stitches, so just knit all the way to the end. Row 3, we're starting to get exciting. This is a case of we're just going to do a knit 1, purl 1, repeat to the end. You may know this as a really basic 1x1 rib stitch. And that's basically what it is. We're just going to knit 1, and then bring the yarn forward and purl 1, and then we're going to take the yarn back, and we're going to knit 1, and we're going to do this all the way across the row. If you're a continental knitter, or if you can do combination knitting, or if you can do flick knitting, this happens really quickly. I, however, am a tried and true English knitter, and I'm just never going to be able to master anything else. So it doesn't matter to me that it takes me a lot longer to get things done, because this is just a nice methodical pattern. So row 4, it's exactly the same as row 3. We're going to knit 1, purl 1, all the way across our row. Now the advantage we've got here in doing the knit 1, purl 1 all the way across the row is you're going to be able to see very quickly from row 3 what your stitch should be. And you'll start seeing the pattern forming. So there we go, should be able to see that we've got almost 2 rows of ribbing with a wobbly line that looks like one of those garter stitch lines, or just sitting under your rib. So I'm going to knit 1, purl 1 all the way across. Of course, I'm demonstrating with a variegated yarn. On a plain yarn, what your hurdle stitch looks like is this. It's very cool. It lays very flat. It looks very neat. You've got these lines going vertically and these lines going horizontally. So for this soap scrubby, what we're going to do is to knit these 4 rows 6 times. So we end up with a piece that's about this long. It's not particularly long at all. It's about as long as a block of soap. Now I'm going to fold it roughly in thirds. I think this has been known as an envelope fold, but maybe that's just a Kiwi thing. So if you've got this long tail, we're going to use our long tails for stitching things up. So we're going to take our work, we're going to have a cough, because that's what we do these days, and we're going to fold it into thirds. So we're going to take one side, which doesn't really matter which way round you decide to look at them, just decide which is the prettiest side to you. Fold them over each other. We're going to pick up our yarn tail, and what we're going to do is stitch through all of these layers on the very end. So I like to use a metal yarn needle at this point, one that's a really strong needle with a large hole in it. And what we're going to do is just line up these sides, and we're going to go through all of these stitches at the top. I do not know what this stitch is called. I think it's just a whip stitch, because I do not do anything interesting on this channel when it comes to cleaning supplies. Because why? We're just going to use it, and if you spend too long making it, you're not going to want to use it. Trust me, if you spend far too long making something, no one's going to want to wipe their windows clean with it, that's for sure. And one thing is, with these cotton cloths, they are so good at doing windows and mirrors. I literally keep one in the bathroom cabinet for cleaning off the mirror. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to whip through all 3 layers here. We're just going to be very careful with it. Take your time, because you need to be able to pick up that middle layer. So we're just going to whip through, and then we're going to go over to the other side, and we're going to whip through all 3 layers. Just pick up parts of the stitch each way, and just keep going all the way across. You can do this while watching television. You can do this while having a conversation with your partner. You can do this while watching the kids play sports ball. You just take your time. It'll happen. It's not a particularly fast process, but it's an easy process, and anything that's easy and methodical is good at the end of the day. So once we've got this stitched up, you'll see that you can slide your soap in and around the flaps, for lack of a better description. So it's going to be held in there by the fact that you've got 2 sides crossing over the soap, and you've got like a little reservoir for your soap ends to go. And then you can just use your soap scrubby as you would normally a block of soap. I find it's a fantastic way of using up those last bits of a block of soap. Oh, pardon me. Particularly if you've got a really nice bar of soap. Like, I really like the Lush soap. I love handmade soaps, but I do find that when you get to that last little bit, that's just, you're dropping it everywhere. It's sticking to the side of the bathtub, and you don't want to throw it away because you paid so much money for your really nice soap. Pop it inside of a soap scrubby, That way you're still getting the advantage of the soap that you had, and you're getting to make it last longer, which, you know, is always nice. And then when you've run out of soap in your soap scrubby, just throw your soap scrubby directly in the wash as you would your other washcloths or your towels, and hang it up to dry. I find that they are great gifts, particularly if you want to gift somebody a handmade soap, or you want to make a handmade soap, or you just want to do something a little bit different. For the old-fashioned kitchen tea, if anyone still goes to those, they were all the rage when I first got married, and then they fell out of fashion all of a sudden. They used to be great kitchen tea gifts. They're also great white elephant gifts, to be honest. You can make up a washcloth, a tea towel, and a soap scrubby. Next thing you know, you've got a very useful, if not strange, white elephant gift to go next time you're doing a Secret Santa, or a white elephant gift exchange, or any of those things. So this needle here that I've got has got a... it's got one of those bends in it. This one's from Hobie, and I find that they're just great because it gives you a little bit of leverage for going through the holes. Right, there we go. And there we are in real time, having stitched up both ends of our soap scrubby. One would have thought that I could have put this in a time lapse, but I didn't. And then I'm just going to fire this end back through, just going to weave it through manfully. And then I'm going to trim off the ends. And as soon as I've trimmed off the end there, it's not going to come undone. It's also a soap scrubby, so worst case scenario, it's going to have a little yarn tail poking out, to be honest. And there we have it. That's one side stitched up. We'll do the same thing to the other side, and we're going to pop our soap in there. It's going to be great. Right, so here I am. I'm back with my very old, very nasty, very holy dishcloth, and here's my brand spanking new one. It is not blocked because it is a dishcloth. I mean, if I was going to gift this to somebody, I would 100% block it, but this one's going to stand up to quite a bit of wear and tear over the next 15 years, and then you'll see an update on this channel when I need to replace it in 15 years time. So I hope you enjoyed making this. I am not sure if this is the last of my videos in this series for spring cleaning, or whether or not there's one more. There may be a tutorial for a soap scrubby attached to this video, or it may be its own video. I can't remember how many videos I now have going up this month, but this month is strangely all about spring cleaning. In the meantime, I will catch you next week. Bye.